Pandit, and today we're talking about the one thing that changes everything. And this is a commitment conversation, my friend. Now, when I say the word commitment, what comes up for you? What are you committed to? So, when you look at commitment in your life, what are the things that you're committed to? Is it your partner, your job, your kids maybe, your business, to a commitment that you made to somebody else? And that's what's really, really fascinating thing about commitment, because when we look at commitment, we tend to look at outside of ourselves. We tend to look at something that's outside of us and committing to that. But the one thing that changes everything is your commitment to you. Now, I know this might just sound like a little bit of an alien concept to a lot of us, and to all heads up, vulnerability alert. This is a topic that I've been exploring for myself in my life in the last few months, and so it's very raw, very fresh, and so I'm curious to look at how this comes through me today. And so, commitment to yourself. What does it even mean to commit to yourself? The thing is that in our life, we're always taught what to do, right? And everything that you do is something that's outside of you. And the one skill that we're never taught is how to be on the planet. And it's often misidentified and misapplied, because anytime you look at being, what comes up to your mind? A lot of times what I hear comes up for people when they think about being is not doing anything. But that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about the kind of being in which you're just being idle. That's a part of being, but that's not all of it. Because when you're truly in a space of being, in a space of presence with yourself, you actually create and do a lot more. So, commitment to yourself is all about breaking that autopilot chain of doing and looking outside of yourself for what you're committed to, and bring it home to within you. Bring it to, what is it that I would like to create? What is it that I desire? What is it that works for me? And committing to that. And honestly, when you're in that space of commitment where you're actually putting yourself and what you desire and what you're here to create and the energies that are engaging with you, when you put all of that first, everything else comes through that. Like all the other commitments that you make in the world, they come through that, and not the other way around. So it's not that you commit to something outside of you and then you find yourself. It's not that. It's that you commit to yourself first, and then things that are outside of you, like your commitment to your job, a commitment to your partner, a commitment to whatever you're working on, or your kids or your family, that commitment actually comes from your commitment to yourself. And it's a very different space of being. So that's the difference, that I just mentioned about the difference between doing and being, that we're so taught, so entrained to do in the world. And a lot of this thing about committing to things outside of yourself versus looking within to find what it is for you, it comes from that. And so as I was looking into this topic, and as I've been studying this topic, there's this amazing book called The Home of Infinite Possibilities by Gary Douglas, and it's actually based on a telecall that he did years ago. And this is the theme of that book is actually commitment to yourself. And so that's been something that I've been studying for some time now and really looking at. And one of the recent examples that showed up for me was, as you guys might already know, that I am a classical dancer in training. I also teach classical dance, like I'm in advanced classes in my academy. And I also teach the beginners and intermediate level students. And so recently, our academy has exams which are kind of optional. Like it's an international curriculum. The exams are kind of optional, but we're always we encourage people to give those exams and show up for them, because they give you, they just keep you in the groove and you stay engaged with what you're learning. And so I had a bunch of things on my plate, like a bunch along, other than my coaching business. I actually started working in somebody's business as a creative head. I've been like looking at all the different things and moving energies in space to like scale their business. And I'm also starting, I've actually already started, but I'm yet to officially launch it, a business in building websites. So I had like a bunch of different things going on. Then I went for the Access Facilitators class. So now I have another new avenue of opening my business to everything, that all the access classes and stuff. So there was a lot that was going on in my plate. And I thought I'm just gonna skip my exam this year. I'm just not gonna give it, because I'm like, I do not have the time enough to practice Kathak. And so I was actually looking at not giving that exam. And this is when I was looking at things that I am committed to from a place of putting it outside of me. So when I was looking at, all right, I'm committed to creating this business, I'm committed to working with this person in their business, I'm committed to starting this new website business. I was looking at commitment as something as outside of me, and I was like, am I committed to giving the exam right now? Like, am I truly committed to Kathak? That's what I was looking at. And what kind of changed that thing for me was when and it was totally unrelated, because I wasn't really looking at changing it, but I was reading and educating myself on this entire conversation around commitment and what it is like to commit to your life. And a lot of what Gary talks about is that, we do not commit to our lives by giving ourselves these back doors, which are basically an option to not do it. And we tend to do it when we're not committed to our lives. So what changed everything for me in regards to, because I am now giving my exam, it's exactly actually in 5 or 6 days from now, and actually preparing for it was a lot more ease than I had even ever imagined. And what changed that for me was not looking outside of myself as, hey, what am I committed to and what am I not? Because what that also tends to do is it puts you into a lot of judgment of yourself. When you're looking for things outside of you and committing to things that are outside of you without taking into account what you are committed to, like, without taking into account your commitment to your life, you leave a lot of cracks for yourself to judge yourself, a lot of ways in which self-judgment can peep in, and then you fall into that entire trap of like using judgment to create your life. But that's not what conscious living is. Conscious living is more about out creating that judgment. And so when I was looking into, I was reading up about commitment, and I'm like, oh shoot, it's really not about any of this that I'm doing. It's literally just about my commitment to my life. And what is that even? What is it like to commit to myself? And am I committed to myself? And the answer I got was no. And I say answer, but it was more like an awareness, because a lot of times we're taught, when we ask a question, to look at it from, am I when I ask myself, am I committed to my life? I could just draw the charts and the comparison tables and look at what does my life reflect, or I could just simply tap into the energy of a question and look at the awareness of what comes up. And remember, anything that contracts you is not true for you. There's a lie there. But anything that expands your space is what is true for you. So taking that into account, when I started looking at, am I committed to my life? The energy instantly told me I'm not. Because the moment I acknowledged that, you know what, I'm not truly committed to my life. I'm just looking for commitment as something outside of me. I'm looking at committing to things that are outside of me. But is that truly committing to me? Because when I'm committing to things outside of me, it's so easy for me to lose a perspective on what is it that I am committed to in life? What is that energy that I would like my life to be? And what is the future and that I would like to have in my life? And what is that energy like for me? And so committing to your life, and the one thing that changes everything is literally bringing everything home, looking within rather than looking outside of you at things, and actually being, including your being in everything that you do. So I noticed this thing about me, that my awareness, I'm very, very, I've shared this multiple times before, how I am a highly sensitive person, as they would call it in psychology, or an empath. And so my awareness is pretty high and on high alert all the time, in the sense that I'm aware of so many things. And chances are, if you're listening to this right now, chances are that this is something that relates to you too. And I'd wonder, I would encourage you to ask for yourself if you're more aware than you give yourself credit for. And so, and again, check in with the energy of it. Was it light for you when I asked you that question? Are you more aware than you acknowledge? And so what happens for me is that it's so easy, because there's an awareness of everything around me. When I'm working on a project, there's an awareness of everything that project is going to be. It's totally non-linear. There is no past, present, and future to it. There's this whole set of information right here in front of me. And so it's easy for me to get lost in that, and instead of making progress, spin in my head with all that information. And so the one thing that changes everything, again, comes into my escape with that, in the sense that it's just about inviting myself to go within and look at, all right, what is it that I wish to create here? Because it's my commitment to me. My commitment is not to this thing outside, but to me. So what is it that I want to create here? And what is the energy I'd like my life to be? What is the energy of possibilities that is speaking to me? And those kind of questions, they kind of start to take you within. They kind of start to bring you closer to committing to whatever this thing is outside of you, what this is for you. And it's with engagement with what this thing that's outside of you, be it your goal or your target or your business, it's your engagement with what this is for me that brings in the element of your commitment to yourself. Because then you're not committed to this thing that's outside of you, but what you are committed to is what it is for you. And that is what stems from your being. And when you're present with that space of being and creating from that space of being, all the action that is required becomes all the more easier and comes with all the more ease. So a part of looking at what is it that you're committed to is to look at, are you committed to a small life? Or have you allowed yourself and given yourself the permission to explore that big life, the life of possibilities that you're aware of and that your being yearns for? So are you in that small space, or are you in that big space of possibilities? Because it's in that big space of possibilities that you're going to find that which you wish to create, and that which you can commit to, that if you did commit to it would make everything else so much more ease. And a part of what occurs when we're not committing to things that are, when we're not committing to ourselves and rather we're committing to things outside of us, a part of what occurs is that we give ourselves an option to leave the back door open. And what that means is that there is an option to not do it, like it was for me when it came to my Kathak exams. Like, I was giving myself the option to not do it because I was not looking at what I am committed to. I was looking at my commitment to give this exam or not to give this exam. And so there's always this option to not to give this exam. But when you turn that inwards and bring it into what am I committed to, you don't have an option to not do it. If you're willing to be honest with yourself, if you're willing to be vulnerable with yourself, if you're willing to be present with yourself. And that is actually the point of this whole exploration of conscious being, conscious living. Your willingness to be with everything you are without any judgment of anything. Your willingness to just be with what you're creating and be with what this is for me. And at any times, if that changes, be with that and ask different questions so that you can find that space of what you'd like to create with whatever this is for you. So, there's one thing I wanted to read out to you, which is around opening the doors to everything you're capable of. When you change your point of view and you commit to you and your reality, and to create beyond the limitations of this reality, the universe starts to adjust itself around that. Your commitment to you and your life and your awareness and your reality is the most powerful source of creation on the planet. So the one thing that changes everything, my friend, is that instead, when you start even exploring and being open to this possibility of, instead of committing to things outside of you, start looking at what this is for you. Start committing to yourself, what you know, what you are aware of. And from that space, engage with everything else that you're creating. And that's the space from which all of life comes to you with ease, with joy, and with glory. Because that is the space in which you're finally including your being in everything that you're doing. So, my friend, I hope this was helpful for you. This is an ongoing exploration for me. So anytime, I find another space of possibilities open up in my world around that, I'll definitely be talking more about that. But in the meantime, I would love for you to ponder over this, to look at what are the possibilities that your life could be, what are the infinite possibilities that you're aware of, and what can you be that would allow you to receive them and create a life of greater ease. I'll see you again